Know who that is?
Is that Ronaldo?
Jamie Fenton. Rewind 3 years. He was sitting right where you are, except he was in Blakely. Guess where he is now?
I give up.
Okay, A, I don't ever want to hear you say those 3 words again. And B, Presbury, in a 6-bed converted chapel with 5 acres to the rear. He's got a duck pond at the end of his garden. Not to be confused with his hot tub. Quack, quack. Ouch.
Hello and welcome to episode 145 of the Talk of the Street, an unofficial Coronation Street catch-up podcast. Despite Carla's offer to run away, Steve's random decision to try tough love, or Lucas, who seems to constantly show up like a fucking creepy fairy godmother. What I really want to know is, did Peter eat his chocolates? I'm Gavin.
I still can't believe you don't like Ted Lasso.
No, it's awful. It's just awful.
It's so wholesome and lovely. And lots of female empowerment and forgiveness, and it's not what you expect, while also being sweary.
It's also a coach who doesn't seem to understand the first thing about football.
Yeah, that's the whole premise of the show.
Yeah, but then when you get to the end of the season, there's still rules that are surprising them. You're like, and every episode's the same.
The only man in the world who doesn't like Ted Lasso.
Well, I don't hate it, but it's just not funny. I think it's meant to be funny, right?
Poor Jason Sudeikis.
That's not the first time that I haven't thought him funny, but
first his
who
wife.
am I to judge? I'm just frequently hilarious. So.
First his wife leaves him for Harry Styles, and now this.
Oh, really? That's a slap in the face, isn't it? For a man boy. He must be all of 19 or something? I bet you he's 30 now.
Well, it's like
one erection where before I moved over, I think. Yeah. So that's at least 9 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, that man's in his 30s now.
It's like
let's find out together, shall we, listeners?
It's like the woman who's in Dairy Girls and Bridgerton. She read an article last night where she was talking about how fed up she is about in interviews, people commenting on her weight, and it says she was 34, and I was like, there's no way she's 34. She looks almost 16.
Harry Styles recently celebrated his 27th birthday. So he's a grown man. Okay. He'll always be a wee boy in my eyes. Oh, that seems creepy.
That does sound creepy.
Let's roll that back.
You are creepy. But we do this.
Am I Lucas creepy, or am I creepy in a good way?
Yeah, what's up with Lucas? We'll get to that.
How are you?
It's weird. I'm weird. I don't know. I had our annual Tony M's cookie booth yesterday, and which was different because we had all of the tables spread 6 feet apart, and each girl had a station, and we had these little bins where the girls would pass the bins so they weren't all touching the same boxes of cookies and stuff, and it was supposed to be a drive-through and everything. And of course people still got out of their cars even though it clearly says drive-through. Yeah. And of course people are touching all of the boxes, and of course people are getting out without masks on and stuff. So even the best laid plans. But then after that I had to rush and go pick up this bunk bed that I'd bought because we are going to be plus one more in the house. We're getting our oldest child back. The prodigal son returns.
You really want to talk about this?
I'm happy about it. But that's just me. I'm a mum. But the reason I bring it up is just, these are things that I used to do all of the time and not feel weathered by it at all. But last night when I got home, I was so exhausted. I'm still exhausted, and it's just like, what is wrong with me? But anyway, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. It was bonus week this week, which is always a good week to work. And the bonus landed a day early, which was a nice
Ooh.
little surprise. And I was checking my bank account for a different reason. I thought, that can't possibly be right. Where did that money come from? What have I forgotten to pay? But no, that little yearly dance of trying to disperse bonus money to satisfy credit card companies always takes like half an hour just to have that money sitting in your account and then it's gone.
Is that why I mysteriously got some money via PayPal from you this week?
Oh no, that was completely separate.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that, by the way.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Do you know, I've been over the summer we had the lawn guy because our lawnmower broke and
you couldn't be ours.
I couldn't be asked getting it fixed or getting a new one, and plus mowing the lawn is starting to really hurt my back. So we got the lawn guy to come and do our lawn every couple of weeks, and he takes like $40 or something for it, which I think is a little expensive considering he has a little ride-on thing, and it takes him not even 20 minutes. But he does a really good job.
Sometimes his wife comes and picks up brush and stuff. So they do a little bit of lawn cleanup as well.
Do a good job.
Yeah.
I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
I can afford it.
Yeah.
It's
It puts money in someone else's pockets, which is nice.
it's a good deal.
Yeah.
So I've got into the habit of every time that I go and get cash out, I take a little bit extra and then stick it in that little pencil holder thing over there.
Yes.
So that when the lawn guy comes and if I'm not here,
The
then
money's
everyone
there.
knows that the money's there just to go and pay the lawn guy
Right.
$40. But it's been winter,
Right.
obviously. Newsflash, it's been winter. But I've continued to do this because it saves me having to do it later.
Yeah.
There's now $340 in cash.
Oh my God.
That little pencil holder. I think, at what point do I stop? When there's like $1,000 and $20 bills that are just folded up and stuffed into in a little box with pencils and what looks like a toffee hammer and some screwdrivers. So it's like, holy shit, there's more than $300 there.
Oh, some of my wee seedlings have started to sprout this week. So we'll have some nice tomatoes and cucumbers. And I started
Oh, you did
earlier.
that again this year?
Yeah. And I started earlier this year. So hopefully our tomatoes won't be ripening in October.
Oh, yeah, you did that, yeah. There was that massive one. Remember you had the mothership
Yes.
tomato that just refused to ripen?
Yeah.
But it was like the size of a cow. It finally turned,
Finally turned and we ate
by
it.
which time we were all sick of tomatoes.
You can never be sick of tomatoes.
Shall we preamble, my dear?
Yes, please.
Give me some of that germinated Corrie news.
Vinta Morgan, who plays Ronnie Bailey, has opened up this week about one of his first experiences with racism. At the age of 11, a police officer stopped him just randomly in the street and demanded that he tip his book bag over onto the street for no reason, and then just kind of left. Made this kid do it. There was nothing there, obviously, because this is a little 11-year-old kid.
Right.
People are fucking awful in this world.
That's a kind of know your place sort of thing, isn't it?
Defund the police.
Because of that.
Well,
You had
because
one
of
chance
many
police
things.
and you blew
Because of many things. You know, Breonna Taylor's murderers are still walking the streets. But anyway, I digress. He is happy that Corey will bring racism storylines into the show to shine a light on this issue. So we're looking forward to more instances of racism on the show.
Well, let's rephrase that. They need to do something about it, though.
Right, yeah.
Because the last couple of times that we've had it,
It's just been kind of random things. It seems like they have things germinating that will be things that won't be cleared up in like 2 episodes and
well,
stuff like
we had
that.
one that was cleared up over the course of a commercial break where Michael was stopped outside the tram
Yes.
the tram station thing.
Yes.
And that still baffles me why that was a thing if they're not going to do anything about it.
I think they may be doing something about it.
But it's kind of, you've kind of
They
done
did,
it.
yeah. They did leave it. They've left this for a long time. If they were going to actually do something with this shady cop,
Oh, the shady cop's coming back?
Maybe.
Oopsie.
Who knows?
I still think that should have been Craig.
Poor Craig.
He came out as gay and racist in the same week.
Leave that sweet gay child alone. Anyway. Another Corey return is planned in the near future. Tracy Bennett is back after 22 years to reprise her role as Sharon Bentley, Rita's ne'er-do-well foster daughter.
Now, you talk about big hitting signings like your Maureen Lipman and your Paula Wilcox. This is up there with them. She's like massively successful Broadway, West End superstar. And she's going to be on Coronation Street again.
Yep.
This is an example of someone who goes away to do other things.
Right.
Who actually did go away and do other things.
Right, yeah.
Rather well. And then coming back. That's fantastic.
It's like if they managed to get Patrick Stewart to come back and play that firefighter that he played 45 years ago.
Playing the same firefighter.
Like his retirement party. Like somebody just happens to barge into his retirement party.
The stand-up comedian Peter Kay was on the classic Corey, I think it was last week, playing a shop fitter as the shop transformed from Maureen's hands into the hands of Fred Elliott and kind of became a little bit more like the dev shop that we have at the moment.
Right.
One of the guys that was making those changes was the comedian Peter Kay, who was also in it some years later as a drayman at the Rovers.
Right.
Once he was famous, but it was a kind of before he was famous sort of thing. But his voice hasn't changed in the slightest because I was only half paying attention and I heard him talking and you sort of look up and go, fucking hell, that is Peter Kay. I wonder when he's going to start talking about garlic bread, and he didn't.
It's like if Joe Gilgun came back as wee Jamie, all grown up after doing Preacher and that other show that I really liked that he was in. Anyway.
I think Steve Buscemi was also in it as a greyhound owner or something.
Is there a British actor who's not been on Coronation Street, do you think?
I think it's a ever-decreasing population, yeah.
Small island. Anyway, finally. This is hilarious. I love this so much. We've all loved the show, taking steps to keep everyone safe while continuing to film and showing up on our screens 3 times a week.
Well,
roughly. 6 times a week.
6 times a week, I think, was
Well,
how
1, 2,
people
3,
like to
4,
count it.
5 times a week, really.
Yeah.
2, 2, 1. Anyway, that's not the point. Not everyone is so keen. A local gym has been taken to court for multiple lockdown breaches and has cited, while representing himself, the fact that Coronation Street and the upcoming Batman movie are still filming as reasons why he should still be able to open his gym as long as he was filming members inside.
Oh, that's wrong for a whole host of reasons.
The judge was unconvinced and ordered the gym doors chained shut and a closure order issued.
That's brilliant. Get
Like,
it
the
right
guy's-
up you.
The guy's like, no, I was filming. Also, I had elite athletes and children there because
Oh, it gets worse and worse.
because the lockdown rules, like exceptions are made for children's programming, for filming,
Sure.
and for elite athletes.
Yeah.
So he claimed to have all 3 of those things happening. And apparently he was like filming people on treadmills and stuff on his iPhone and posting it to YouTube. And he claimed that this meant that he could stay open. He was posting on Facebook, if you come to the gym and somebody tries to stop you, tell them that you're there for the filming.
I'm only kind of pleased that the phrase "without their knowledge" hasn't been used thus far. So that kind of doesn't make it quite as bad as it could possibly be. But I don't see the thought process to make a logical comparison between your gym and a Batman movie. It's a bit of a leap.
Unless Robert Pattinson is in both. I don't want to hear it.
They're making a new Batman movie?
You didn't know this? Robert Pattinson's the new Batman. You haven't seen the trailers for this? It's quite
No.
dark. He's got like lots of eye makeup on.
Why are we making more Batman movies?
Because apparently that's the only thing that DC can do properly.
Is this in the same universe as the Joker, or is this completely standalone? We can talk about this.
I don't know if the Joker is in this one or not. If the Joker is in it, I don't think what's his name is playing the Joker in it. So
Joaquin.
yeah,
That's
Joaquin
a shame. He was good.
Phoenix, who's kind of a pretentious asshole, but that's okay.
He's an actor. What do you expect?
Robert Pattinson, the new Batman. Quite excited. And I don't really get excited for DC films. Especially now that they've totally ruined Wonder Woman in Wonder Woman 84, which was so bad.
Oh, was it? I don't think I even watched that. Did I? Did I watch that?
I think you watched bits of it when you were walking through the living room while Stelly and I were watching it.
Oh, that's okay.
Because it's on HBO Max, or it was on HBO Max. I don't know if it's there anymore. And I think Stelly and I may have put you off because even Stelly was like, what is wrong with these people?
Well, I tell you, we were going to be
Not
doing
even Pedro Pascal could redeem it. And I love him.
We were going to be doing the new SpongeBob movie for our SpongeBob Patreon, but she doesn't seem to be that keen on that either. Yeah,
she didn't like that. She didn't like it because it rewrites some SpongeBob history. And
the one thing that you can't break is the SpongeBob canon.
She's not happy with that because she, a 12-year-old girl, can see it as a money grab that they're kind of rewriting SpongeBob history and creating this new cartoon where SpongeBob, Sandy, and Patrick are all kids at a sleepaway camp.
Oh, it's Muppet Babies? Oh, who cares? Our mailbag. Wendy got in touch to say, seriously with this week? Peter's makeup looks like he's a geisha. And can everyone just calm the fuck down,
Speaking of the
please?
Joker.
Steve, really? There's no joy in this show at the moment. As Elvis says, what's so funny about peace, love, and understanding?
Yes. Elvis Costello, not Elvis Presley.
And then Joe wrote in, with a little back and forth with Joe this week. Joe, who marches to the beat of his own drum, says, do you think Tim's fucking dad's ghost will finally die when he falls off the roof? Or is he like Rasputin, who cannot be killed? Also, is Tim's fucking dad still a paid-up member of the cast because he must still be recording ghost scenes, and long may they continue? He's a fan of the ghost of Tim's
either that,
fucking dad.
or they're just, using the same tape of him laughing over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, when the Joker fell to his death from an even higher roof, and he had that recording of himself laughing in his pocket. The only Joker who means anything to me, a.k.a. Jack Nicholson. In the first Batman movie, remember?
Yeah.
Michael Keaton, the only Batman I will ever love. I love Michael Keaton.
And now this.
What? You think I love George Clooney with his nipples?
No, it's Christian Bale all the way.
Welcome.
Welcome to Last Year Tonight with me, John Oliver. Just enough time to quickly talk about the Angster Gangster.
I remember Angster Gangster. That's Gary, isn't it?
No, it was almost the opposite of Gary. It was Roy. Roy was the Angster Gangster according to Carla.
Oh, okay. Yep.
This was because he was fretting about lying to Nina about going back watching with his loser friends.
Oh, yep. I remember that.
I was Gavin and you were drinking the tears of billionaires.
Yeah. This morning I have a firm belief in the ability and power of women to achieve.
An awful lot going on in that mug.
Yep. It's a quote from Eleanor Roosevelt, if you didn't recognize it. So I'm still politically minded with my mugs.
I, on the other hand, am drinking from a Welcome to Shawshank mug, which I bought from the Ohio State Penitentiary, which featured as the Shawshank and the Shawshank Redemption.
Well, I walked around the grounds with a dog. Right. You went inside.
Yep. It was good. That was a good tour. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. Still kind of sad I didn't get to do it.
Because of the dog?
Because of the dog. That was 2 years ago.
Wow. Anyway, as we've been leading into over the last few episodes, this was the first week of us recording in the times of COVID lockdown and our permanent move to Saturday morning recordings. I think the Saturday morning recordings I think that's just what we do now, isn't it?
It is. And it's better. Let's be honest.
Yeah, the Friday nights were...
It was awful because you were up until like 2 a.m.
Sometimes 4. if the Mac wasn't playing ball. The engine fell out the Equinox, $4,500 down at the start of a pandemic. That was good fun.
Yeah.
My working from home was estimated as lasting for 3 weeks.
I know. It came up in my Facebook memories that the governor had closed schools until April 5th, which makes me laugh a little. April 5th.
Yeah. If it was my memory of the last day of being at work when my team got sent home and mostly everyone else got sent home. So the movement of people to their cars in the parking lot.
Oh, God.
I was carrying my laptop and tripping over the power cable because it kept on slipping off the... You had it wrapped around, but it
I
kept
thought
on
we went
over.
to get your laptop later.
No.
Oh.
People pushing their office chairs out of the building. There was people who had little carts.
Their
all the
office chairs?
plants.
They took their office chairs?
People took monitors. People took keyboards. People took, those fancy lights.
Mm-hmm.
Took those little lights from the desk. Those cost $200, by the way. There's like thousands of them in that place.
You left your Funkos.
I left my Funkos, my
Your
Slash,
Funkos
and my
are-
Axl Rose, and my
Guy from
Silicon Valley that we
Valley.
don't talk about anymore. Anyway, James is outed and then manages to in himself, but again, it was another week of departures on Corey as Ali realises that his hair still isn't quite short enough for future storylines, and he heads off to find a barber who can finish the job. Roy and Nina continue to be delightful, with Roy telling his back people to go have fun with themselves after they disparage Nina's clothing choices, and then lasagna is consumed. Eccles explains to Ken why a move to Shady Acres may be for the best. Gemma has some horrible friends and an absentee mother. Toya has transferable skills. Our moment of the week was Ken and Eccles as they left number one forever, which turned out not to be forever, and that was dedicated to the memory of one teddy dog. And our boring moment of the week was Ken and Claudia arguing over books. So Ken was our moment of the week and boring moment of the week. And that was Coronation Street and the Talk of the Street this time last year.
Oh,
What a year.
what a year.
It's felt like 100 years and it's felt like one day.
And it still
But
feels
mostly
that way.
100 years. Shall we dive in, my dear?
Yes, please.
Got a lot to get through this week.
None of it good.
Not a huge amount
No
of it.
joy in this week. None. No joy. Not one thing that made me happy.
I found one bit of joy, and it's my nomination for Moment of the Week. But
We'll get to that.
yeah, give us an hour or so and we'll get to it. Our first storyline this morning. Just a year. Just been doing it for a year.
I think because we talked about it, that's why you said
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Sean's pyramid shenanigans.
Oh,
That's how we started the week. God.
and it just went
Put a
downhill
marker
from
down,
there.
right? Put a flag in the sand. On Monday, Sean starts off the week in a super mood when Dylan texts that he's coming to visit. Eileen okays it, much to the disgust of Todd the prick, who feels like he has no privacy when Dylan visits these days. Then get your place.
Yeah. Todd's weird, isn't he?
Why? He has apparently a super sales job at the factory,
Right. And he's never there.
and he's living with his mum.
Yeah. Carla lives with... Where does Carla live now?
I think she's still at Roy's.
Who's essentially her dad.
Right.
And she practically owns the... You know... It doesn't make sense how why half of these people live with other people. None of this makes sense. It's just so that the show doesn't have to build another set
And
for
explain
another house.
who other people are, yeah.
Yeah.
At the factory, Kirk is still pissed at Sean. I was glad that Kirk was still pissed at Sean.
Yes.
Making Sean feel like that shunned Amish woman from Witness. Todd points out that Harrison Ford was worth getting shunned for. That stupid pyramid scheme, not so much. A decent line.
Yeah.
Then Ridian, who
Young
doesn't work at
Harrison
the
Ford,
factory.
not old Harrison Ford.
Then Ridian, who doesn't work at the factory,
Turns up at the factory.
This is making a mockery of any security rules that they have at the factory. Ridian!
Right. Especially during COVID, you'd think that they'd be like, only X amount of people are allowed in at any given time.
Ridian turns up at the factory. Unannounced, unchaperoned.
Just walks right in.
He turns up at the factory to
There's
see
no
Sean.
key card to get in.
No. Outside in the rain, Ridian sweet talks Sean, telling him that by throwing a bit more money at this thing, he could become a real success. Like him, get away from this factory in these hours. Carla walks by and says that she hopes Sean's not on her time. And then Kirk walks by and tells Ridian to move his fucking car. Kirk is still giving Sean the cold shoulder later in the factory. Sean doesn't think this is fair and reckons that he's doing all this for Dylan. Maybe, says Kirk, but you don't need to shaft your mates in doing so. Kirk leaves, then takes a spill in the stockroom, and it looks like Sean's boxes of shite makeup have something to do with the accident. And it's a leaky bottle in one of the boxes.
Yes.
Although Kirk is oddly okay. He's lying on his back, writhing in pain one minute, and then the next minute he's up and about and
Right.
telling Nick that he's fine.
This is not the first time something like this happens this week, though.
Kirk must have landed on his head. But Nick isn't pleased.
Oh!
What are these boxes and why are they in my fucking factory? Kirk tells him, and he was under the impression that Sean had Nick's blessing. Yeah.
Oh, and also...
About that, says Sean.
And also, for a while there, Sean can't hear that Kirk is shouting for help because he has these big, massive headphones on.
Right.
Was that meant to be funny? Because the woman behind him has also got earplugs in.
You sounded like Jenny when you said that.
Is that meant to be funny?
Nick tells Kirk to take the rest of the day off and then explains to Sean that he's put him in a tricky position here. I don't want to have to fire you, he says. And Sean takes a hint and quits. For the best, says Nick. Now get your shite shifted right now. Sean agrees and then gives Eileen a quick call to talk about future box storage. At Roy's Rolls, Todd is laying it on thick about how Sean is a bit of a scumbag by continuing to take advantage of Eileen's good nature. You really do want your bedroom back, says Eileen, who sees through this faux concern. And Todd admits it, but he doesn't like seeing his mother being played for a mug by anyone that isn't him.
Right, yeah. It's like, I'm the only... He's essentially the male Daisy, isn't he? The only person who can manipulate you in your life is me. And no one else is allowed near you.
Right.
Yeah.
When you said male Daisy, for some reason I've pictured Daisy as a lovely big cow. And Todd as a smelly bull. Do you know, some people can't imagine things like that. Some people's brains don't work that allow them to see images. Those are lucky people.
You're truly blessed.
At the pub, Gemma's wearing a grin mask.
Like, yeah, that was hilarious. I
That
do
was
like
actually
her
pretty funny.
mask.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because everybody else is just wearing like boring old, like solid color masks.
Yep.
Nobody else has made a statement like this. And I'm actually frankly surprised
Mm-hmm.
that Sean didn't get a peacock mask to match his peacock shirt.
Right.
And Tyrone doesn't have a mask that says Boston on it. That's what we should have sent him.
Or just something that said, some American places. Gemma's wearing a grin face mask but insists that she's dead sad that Sean's lost his job. Sean tries to put a spin on it like he did the honourable thing, and then in the next breath tells Eileen that he might need to owe her next month's rent. Eileen and particularly Todd aren't happy about this, or the boxes that are now in the house not being sold. Sean didn't think it was an issue and then twigs that Todd's been whispering in Eileen's ear. Mm-hmm. Todd admits that he thinks Sean treats Eileen like a muppet. Eileen kinda agrees, so Sean goes off knowing he's not wanted, but saying he won't end up hopeless again. And no one cares.
Nope. Least of all, Carol.
I kind of had the idea that Carol was going to be the main kingpin in this pyramid scheme and just set up purely to bring down Sean, but unfortunately that doesn't look like it's going to happen.
Unless she's above Ridian.
On Wednesday, Ridian rolls up to see Sean, but bumps into Todd instead. Ridian's driving a convertible Porsche Boxster, I think. Something that he says that he picked up last year, and Todd is well impressed until a passing Abby reveals that it's a leased car that she and Kev do services for.
And
but
Ridian...
not like that.
And Ridian offers Todd a ride in his cockpit.
Yeah, they don't waste any time, do they?
Cockpit.
Seriously, like 30 seconds after meeting each other, they could have been getting the hole. Smoke them if you got them. She says that the company specialise in short-term leases, so the guy's talking fucking bollocks if he said that he bought it. Todd asks if she could do some investigating for him to find out for sure. Abby tells him to get to fuck.
Yeah, I love that. That was
It's like,
good.
what am I? Meanwhile, Ridian has taken Sean to Roy's Rolls to show him a badly photoshopped picture of a man in a tree on the beach. It seems this dude was just like Sean, only with worse numbers, and now he has 6 hollywobs a year, has 5 acres, a duck pond, and a hot tub that's not to be confused with a duck pond. Quack, quack, ouch. And he offers to help Sean climb that mountain. And during this, Sean manages to denounce Gemma as a friend.
Mountain.
Oh, Gemma's not really a friend. Abby, though, has let her nose get the better of her, and sensing an opportunity to possibly be the hero of someone else's story, she does some digging and reports back to Todd that this was a 3-day lease. Just as I suspected, says Todd, and he twirls his moustache a little bit. At speed dial, Todd explains all this to Eileen. Sean's an idiot, but he doesn't deserve to be ripped off by this grifter. And as Sean wouldn't trust Todd as far as he could throw a knife into his back, Todd convinces Eileen to be the one to tell them that this Ridian character is a charlatan.
He's no good. He's no good. He's no good.
Baby, he no good. So later in the pub, Eileen tries to tell Sean that he's been taken for a ride in a car that's on a 3-day lease, but Sean isn't moved. He needs to make money so Dylan can be proud of him, and this makeup gig is all he has left. Then Ridian and Sean are back in Roy's Rolls. Ridian knows how to show Sean a really good time.
Yeah, seriously.
Ridian asks for a frappuccino. Nina offers to throw some ice in a coffee. He tries to impress Sean with talk of a seminar, but Sean's in a mood, not interested in schmoozing, and wants to know what Ridian's deal is because he knows about the car. And Ridian admits that he uses smoking mirrors. It's all part of the skill set when you're a salesman, but he says Sean could really own that kind of car if he wanted, and it's so rare that he gets excited by looking at raw talent, but that's what he's looking at right now.
Raw something. Not talent.
Sewage? Let's play Family Feud. Complete the raw blank.
Dog.
Sex. Sewage. Sewage for 100 points. He wants Sean at that conference hosting part of the seminar. What do you say?
What could Sean teach people
Like,
about selling things?
about anything. And he must say yes, because the next we see Sean, he's outside the house with Todd, bragging about how he's going to be the next big thing. And then some joker called Mervyn rolls up in a flash merc that Ridian is leasing for Sean. Sean is going places, so fuck you, Todd. Fuck you right in the ear.
And the earth.
Oh, that's as far as we get with that this week.
Why? I thought we were all done with this stupid storyline.
You thought that last week?
And then they brought it back last week, and now
we've been introduced to various, presumably Welsh people, Ridian and Mervyn. We're going to have Jones, the makeup salesman, next week, I think. Are you enjoying this story? I don't think you are.
What a useless storyline this is. I think in this day and age, don't most people know that pyramid schemes are bad?
I don't know.
I mean, it's kind of like psychics on TV, isn't it? It's all of these things that are like throwbacks to the 1990s.
Say it properly.
1990s.
There you go. I don't know. I have friends at work who are salespeople for Roden and Fields and say that it's not a pyramid scheme, even though it absolutely is.
Yeah.
They think.
And Amway is still a thing. And Amway's almost a cult more than a pyramid scheme at this point, just like that Nexium, only without the sex. These people who sell Amway do not have sex.
Ever?
With anyone but their wives.
Okay. The whole Sean thing, though, is there seems to be a threat of him becoming homeless or losing everything again. When we did this a couple of years ago.
Right. And
so we're not going to do it again. So there's not a threat of that happening.
And at that point, what happened? He claimed to have this really big job coming, so he quit the factory because of, this thing that was supposed to happen, and then it didn't happen. Yeah, we're basically regurgitating that whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Except we've got added stupidity added on to stubbornness.
Right, and more of a lack of sympathy because he's been throwing his friends under the bus with it.
Yeah, not his friends. Gemma, who represents his friends. It's not his friends.
Yeah.
And it's actually got me thinking that Todd's not 100% wrong about something for a change.
Yeah. Yeah. It's forcing us to sympathize with Todd, and we don't like that.
I will never forgive this.
No.
Never.
And it seems to be trying to make us care about Sean, and we just don't anymore because he's been so awful that it's like we don't care if something bad happens to him. You know, I guess I would feel bad for Dylan, but he's got a nice stepdad, so
I'd have to listen back to what we thought at the time, but I think I was a little bit sympathetic for Sean's situation before.
yeah, I was pretty.
I probably wasn't, but I think
I
that
was quite sympathetic to the
Wouldn't be this time.
situation.
I think I'd quite enjoy it.
Yeah,
That's what you deserve.
right.
He's had so many years to sort himself out
It's
and
like
become something.
It's like they just don't know what to do with this
They have no
character.
idea.
They have no idea what to do with this character because initially he was kind of written as comic relief and to be kind of this stereotype of the gay man. They can't really do that anymore.
Right, there's much better gay characters in it now.
Right. And also it's kind of icky to play gay people as stereotypes. You know, it's much better having a gay football player and a gay priest and well, I guess the gay priest is a stereotype too, but you know what I mean? And gay Paul. Anyway.
Enough about Sean.
Lots of the gays.
Let's move on and talk about Peter's liver next. Oofed. On Monday, Carla is visiting Peter and offers to skive off work to spend the day with him, but he's already off back to bed. When Steve comes in, she reveals that she's worried about him, and so is Steve, but he's going to be home all day and will keep an eye on him because he's good at that.
And he has been.
Until he becomes very, very bad at that.
Yes.
So later, Steve is going to have someone's eye out with that empty cup that he's thrown around. Peter feels like he needs something to occupy his endless days.
Beyond the jigsaw puzzles.
And so after a fashion, he talks Steve into letting him work a few shifts on the switch at streetcars.
Yeah.
Steve's initial, you can't be driving cars.
No.
I'd like to say, contrary to our correspondent, I really enjoyed, and I enjoyed last week as well, Peter's makeup. He looks fucking awful.
You can see like right here, there's like a spot where they missed a spot. So like white, and then kind of normalish skin.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Because I thought he looked gaunt and drawn and looked like he'd lost a ton of weight.
Yeah. They were a little heavy-handed with that white pancake, I think.
So on his way, Peter's got a couple of coffees from Roy's and he drops them on the ground. Those cups are full. Or at least they're full in the aftershock. Simon, who should be off with Jacob in another storyline here, sees this and panics, but Peter explains that he's fine. This is just what happens when you quit drinking. Simon takes him at his word and walks off, ignoring the spilled coffee cups and carrier that are on the ground, leaving them for his dad to pick up, I guess. Right,
or for no one to pick up.
At the factory, Carlo's trying to conduct business with Lucas, but Lucas wants to talk about Peter and the chaos of living with an addict.
He's really...
How quickly he's fallen.
The problem with Lucas is that he's really just projecting his own life onto Carla, because he's had this relationship with this woman who was an addict and
has successfully navigated his way through that, through her death.
Yes. I wouldn't call that a success, necessarily.
Well, he's not dead.
Right.
So if that's your benchmark, then I guess he's cleared it.
Yeah.
Mix those metaphors.
Yeah. There's something wrong with Lucas's head.
Not just the quiff.
Oh, I like his hair.
Anyway, he offers his ear again, but it can't be here. It needs to be somewhere nice. Perhaps with a view, competitive hourly rates, and booze. Simon runs into Ken, who always seems to be dressed like an elderly serial killer these days. All in black with
that's what he is.
Wouldn't that be a real turn up? It turns out that Ken's been a serial killer all these years. Oh, I'd love that.
I would too.
The clues have been there
all along. This is why he's the longest living person on the street.
Because he's killed everybody else. Simon explains how bad his dad was looking earlier. Ken tells him not to worry about it too much and they go off to have a tea and a catch-up.
Which is nice.
Yep.
Because it means that we're putting off Simon's horrible storyline for a little bit. And like people are actually caring about Simon for once.
Yep. Carla and Lucas have retreated to the Rovers. He tells her that she needs a break from everything, then proceeds to go on about how difficult it is to live with an addict and how the addiction comes before anything or anyone else.
Again, he's projecting his own situation onto Carla.
Mm-hmm. Simon and Ken are at Roy's Rolls. Ken's advice for Simon is to let the grown-ups worry about Peter. He's always there if Simon needs to talk, and then Ken gets a call about him leaving his glasses at the chemist and couldn't abandon Simon any quicker. I'm always here for you. Cheerio.
Bye!
Peter hasn't made it to streetcars and instead is in a pretty bad state on the couch at home. When Steve gets in, he's initially surprised and then angry that people moved their shifts to work with Peter, but then he becomes convinced that Peter is in fact pissed and Peter is too breathless to put up any kind of defence.
And his makeup has gotten even worse.
To be fair, Peter does look and sound kind of blootered, but Steve refuses to let him finish a sentence and shouts, "Not on my watch!" and he goes round the house locking doors and ignoring Peter's vain attempts to explain. Do you know, on reflection, that is kind of just typical Steve though, isn't it? He gets an idea in his head and that's him.
And he just runs with it.
Right. Back in the pub, Lucas is now boring Carla with details of his fitness regime, but he quickly turns it round to his mental health after Lucy's passing. The price of love, he says.
Every sentence just makes him just that much more just deplorable. The man shaves.
Carla realises that her phone is out of juice during all of this, which is going to be useful later on.
Right, yeah. She realizes her phone is out of juice, does not pull a charger out of her purse, does not say, you know, let me run back home and grab my charger because I have this really sick boyfriend and I also have a factory to run. So it's kind of important for me to have... She's just like, oh, it's dead. No biggie. Mm-hmm. Who does that?
Right.
Who does that? Nobody does that.
Steve leaves a message with Carla as Peter has managed to tell Steve that he needs help. But Steve misinterprets the plea. Of course you do, you worthless alky. Peter insists that he's sober, but then can't stand up. Steve needs to go back to work and decides to lock Peter in the house.
And Steve keeps repeating this really awful thing that people in real life do say over and over and over again. The whole, understand it's a disease, but...
What that really means is, I don't understand it's a disease, and...
Right, absolutely.
Lucas is ready to move on to someplace else, but Carla wants to check on Peter. You do what you have to do, says Lucas, who's suddenly Northern Irish, I think. You don't have to justify yourself to me. When he was in a similar situation, he didn't know when to say no, so Carla says fuck it and goes into town with Lucas. When Steve gets home, Peter is literally begging for an ambulance, but Steve has cracked into the sanctimonious pills that he keeps stashed at streetcars and continues to berate Peter. Sure, he's drunk. Look at you, giving chances for my Oliver. And then when Peter doesn't know who Oliver was, Steve throws 20 quid at Peter, tells him to drink himself to death, and then leaves.
Right. Even if he was drunk, even if he was really, really, really drunk, if somebody says, I need an ambulance, you call a fucking ambulance.
Right.
If somebody is so drunk they realize that they need medical help, you get the medical help. What is wrong with Steve? This is so bad.
It's like, why would you leave someone who's so ill and Steve's charge? Why would nobody check on Steve? Right. So Steve goes to the florist to see Tracy to complain about Peter. They get back to the house with the intention of taking Peter to bed, but not like that. And Peter is dead to me after that, says Steve. Rather foreboding. Tracy opens the door and gasps as she finds that Peter is sparked out on the floor. Then Steve, who doesn't work at the factory, rushes round to the factory to look for Carla, but Nick hasn't seen her all afternoon and she's not answering her phone. Steve explains about Peter being paralytic and on his way to hospital. Nick thinks Carla needs to dump his sorry ass after all of this is done. Then later at the tram station, Steve finally finds Carla half cut with Lucas, and he tells her that Peter's in hospital and he's been drinking again. I knew it, says Carla, and she rushes away as Lucas visibly deflates as he realises that he's not going to be getting his hole.
Nope.
On Wednesday, Carla goes to see Peter in hospital, and she's not for believing him when he insists that he wasn't drinking. According to Steve, he was singing sea shanties and flogging Roger the cabin boy within an inch of his life.
Timbot 4000 says ho 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 and a bottle of rum.
Indeed. He has no memory of drinking and had no intention to do so, and he asks that she hangs around for his consultant visit. Then Lucas turns up at the hospital.
Oh.
And he sees Carla in the hospital waiting room, and after a short catch-up where he slyly puts Peter down, he asks Carla, someone that he's seen maybe 4-5 times, to go back to Devon with him. He paints a picture of beach walks, roaring fires and big jumpers. Carla can't believe that he's hitting on her right now, and he asks if it doesn't appeal. Steve pops in. You had me at big jumpers, he says. And he wasn't kidding. If it was him...
He needs a big jumper.
If it was him, he would go, Lucas looks like he's giving it some... Lucas looks...
Like he's giving it some thought.
That's what I've written down. Carla says this isn't how it works. Lucas is only an old friend. With all the people Peter is threatening to take down with him, Steve advises looking after number one, then goes in to see the man that he's been bad-mouthing for 5 minutes uninterrupted.
Right, yeah. It's like, leave him, ditch him, I'm going to go see him.
Ken arrives and he, like Carla, are about ready to stick a fork in the Peter burger. It's done. Steve's visit with Peter has mostly been a shouting affair, and he goes home telling the others that he's on call if more shouting is required later. Then Carla goes in. Peter's had so many lectures today he feels like he's at university. That was hilarious.
And miraculously, with like no IV or anything, he's just sitting in a bed, and he's sitting up, and he's talking normal. He's no longer pale.
Yeah, his complexion is completely better.
His complexion is completely better. Everything is completely better.
Well, people do look better in hospital, don't they? Something about the lights. But Carla's tired of this, tired of standing in this spot, tired
It's a
of
miracle.
being there to reassure him, fix him, and when he tells her that he needs her, those aren't the words that she wants to hear. She loves him, but she's bailing. She can't clear up the mess when one set of best intentions after another fails, and then finally, a fucking consultant arrives. That's NHS for you.
Right, yeah. And this whole thing, you just know they've written it this way so that everybody can yell and berate Peter.
It's the old...
Oh, we have to wait for the consultant, but we're all going to, cut ties with you and yell and scream at you and don't believe you.
Let's insert the airplane gif at this moment where the woman's getting beaten up by the line of people. The consultant explains that basically what was wrong with Peter was due to a build-up of toxins because of his liver damage. Because of his drinking? Asked Carla. Only historically. But was he drunk? Asked Carla. No, he wasn't. And this is what happens when people believe Steve McDonald. Tell you, says Peter. Carla is overcome with regret and apologises while Peter's eyes notch up something that he can hold over her at a later date. But for now, he chooses to be humble. He didn't deserve her trust or belief because he's let her and everyone else down so often in the past. He wants to put it all behind him, but he insists that if she stays, it has to be because she wants to. Carla looks agreeable. She has to do what makes her happy. And now Carla doesn't look so sure. But she goes to the factory to pick out some stuff, and of course Lucas is there waiting, expecting her to run off with him. She says that she was never running away with him. And I think that's an interesting way of putting it. She was never running away with him. She was running away.
Right.
The thought of running away was there, but it wasn't really running away with him.
With him, yeah. Like she was going to leave Peter, but not for him.
Right. She was running away from something.
Right.
But her place is with Peter. He does his level best to convince her that she'll be let down again, that she's making a huge mistake. And how does he get his hold off of her if she's with Peter? She tells him to fuck off. She loves Peter, and that's all there is to say about that. So Ken's with Peter, and he buys his forgiveness with a copy of Practical Boat Owner. When Ken leaves, Lucas of all people comes in. He wants Peter to let Carla go. He really says that. And he also
really says that he loves Carla.
He loves Carla. He really says that too.
He really says that he loves this woman that
he barely knows.
Barely knows.
And what he does know of her is no longer true.
Right, yeah. And was based on a lie.
He's asked her to move away with him. Peter is understandably reluctant to listen to this, but Lucas isn't for stopping. He doubts Carla loves him. He doubts that Peter even loves himself. Even Peter's friends think this relationship is a car crash and she should go off with Lucas. Unfortunately, it looks like Peter is giving this Muppet's whole driven speech some consideration.
Yeah.
But
What- Yeah, he gives it pause when he says about Carla's friends thinking that it was a good idea.
Peter's
Wait a
lying
second,
there
Carla
thinking,
has friends?
fucking Steve. Fucking Steve again. He tells Carla everything when she comes back. She says that he had no right to do any of that, but she refuses to be held responsible for what goes on in someone else's head, which is absolutely true. She loves Peter. She's not leaving with Lucas, and she's made that abundantly clear. Peter believes her and is actually thankful that it's given him a shake. She reckons that they're inevitable. I'm not sure that's a good adjective to use to describe a relationship.
Yeah.
And that she's given up fighting it. Now here's a new toothbrush. Later, a rather sheepish Steve comes in to apologise. Peter can forgive that, but he explains that he knows about Steve's advice to Lucas, and that he cannot forgive. At home,
I mean, it wasn't even really advice, and it was just Steve being very angry because
and
he
letting off
couldn't
steam.
remember
Yeah,
Oliver.
right. That's
it.
The entire basis of
The
Steve's
whole
anger.
basis is that, yeah.
At home, Steve tries to explain to Ken and Tracy that it was an honest mistake and he didn't have all the information. Tracy backs Steve up. Peter looked and sounded drunk, she says. His word isn't worth anything, and let's face it, he's a fucking nightmare to live with. In that case, says Ken, sling your hooks and look for somewhere else to live.
Timbot 4000 says shit just got interesting.
Yeah, no shit.
Indeed.
On Friday, Carla meets Tracy outside number 1 and announces Peter will be getting home later. Tracy tells Steve, who has to pretend to be thrilled. He promises again to apologise, but she's already done, kinda, but points out that if he'd been right about everything, about Peter being drunk, Carla would have thanked him. Yeah, that's kind of a big if, though, isn't it?
Right.
Tracy says, right. Tracy says, everything will work out, don't worry about it. Right, says Carla, who really does say right.
Right.
Peter's home and he and Steve immediately start arguing. Steve apologises but doesn't really mean it. Peter's on his high horse but doesn't appreciate how drunk he looked and sounded, because he really did sound and look drunk. Tracy leaves them two outside, and Amy is the voice of adult reason and reminds her mum
Once again.
that if Ken comes home and they're still arguing, they'll all be sleeping with Carol tonight. Oh, pig's tits, says Tracy.
And this is why Amy is not in another storyline.
Steve goes back with some chocolates as a peace offering. Peter's favourite. But Peter isn't for making this easy for Steve, so he lays the box down on the side table. He apologises yet again, but it was really difficult watching what he was putting Carl and Ken through, and then he has to apologise for saying that. He goes off to meet Amy at Speed Dial and makes an offering for Peter to get a takeaway, but Peter's not for accepting it.
New.
And he looks like he's ready to nick those chocolates back on his way out until
Yeah.
Peter throws him a dirty look and he leaves those chocolates be. That was hilarious, because I was sitting watching that as Steve's about to leave the room.
Right.
And I thought it would be really funny if he just threw a wee glance down at those chocolates, and then he did. I thought, oh no, he's going to take the chocolates back. And he thought about it.
He did think about it. Is that your one moment of joy this week?
That was it. That was it. The look on this whole thing, there was so much said in that brief 5-second scene where the look of retracting an offered gift
That's hilarious.
was given.
Yeah.
And then it was burned away by Peter's
glare.
response to it.
Yeah.
And then Steve's kind of sheepish realisation that he's been caught
Right.
as he walked out.
Yeah.
I was chuckling away good style at that. I thought it was fantastic. It was brilliantly done. And it was needed.
Yeah.
Oh, something like that was so needed.
I wonder if that was improv.
It had that feel about it.
It did.
I don't think that's something, I think that'd be something that'd be really difficult to direct someone to do.
Right.
Just that quick, just throwing down that glance. It had a kind of natural feel to it, didn't it?
It really did.
So much to unpack about this storyline.
Nothing to unpack about this storyline.
Nothing?
Nothing. Because we've already unpacked this storyline over and over and over again.
Yeah. I think the
Lucas is freaking nuts. Lucas is crazy.
Oh, yeah.
This is the one thing. It's like, before it just seemed like he was just a nice guy who kind of sort of had a crush on Carla, but now it's like he can't let it go. And he's saying crazy things like he loves her and run away to Devon with me. It makes me feel like he might be dangerous.
Well, yes. I think you touched on you touched on kind
the fact that
my
it's
feeling
projection.
of it.
Yeah.
Right. He starts off, as you said, just being someone who has been through it. They have a slight history of having fun in Devon.
Right.
Try to imagine what the fun in Devon. Yeah, there is just someone who's been there, done that, has a t-shirt kind of thing. Someone for Carla to talk to who can appreciate the situation.
And he just slowly becomes really crazy.
I don't think slowly and slowly at all. I thought very, very dramatically became a fucking head case.
Right.
And like you said about the whole projection thing, Carla said, I don't want, that's not what I'm waiting my whole life for someone to hear saying is that I need you. That's not what that's not what she wants to hear. What she wants to hear is I love you, which is what Lucas says to her.
Right. Well, he doesn't even say that to her. He has not told Carla he loves her. He told Peter he loves Carla.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
He hasn't even said it to her.
But it seemed that Lucas may as well not exist. All he is as a character is Carla's romantic notion of what she's looking for in a relationship. Mm-hmm. And then she's looking at Peter lying on that bed and then realising that she can't keep on standing there any longer.
Right.
But
she doesn't want Lucas.
No. And someone pointed out on Twitter that all he did is just roll his eyes at her.
Yeah.
Every time she says something that's to do with Peter,
right,
he's just so dismissive.
Yeah.
Really, that's who you want to?
No.
That's a character? That's the self-centered character you want to?
No.
Of course you don't. You have a look that you want to move on to Alina's dead dog story.
I really don't, but...
Yeah, I feel like we can
what is with characters on this show naming their dogs after mythological characters? First Cerberus and now Romulus.
Yeah, I don't have an answer to that.
A 9-year-old girl named her doggy
I don't think
Romulus.
she was responsible for naming it.
She said it was her dog that she's had since she was a little girl.
She went out and bought that dog.
Somebody bought it for her.
That was a family dog. The family have named the dog. You don't let a 9-year-old name a dog.
That's how you get animals like our cat. Black and white spotted kitten.
Mm-hmm. He doesn't answer to it though.
He answers to black and white. Like when he's over in Janet's yard and I'll shout at him, black and white, what are you doing over there?
You could shout anything to him and he would come over.
And he runs over.
You can also go and he comes over.
Well, you can do that to any cat.
That's kind of my point. Alina's dead dog. On Monday, Tyrone and Fizz are leaving the house, Fizz winding Ty up about his yoga capabilities. And along comes Alina, who asks Ty if he'll be going to class later. And flustered, Tyrone explains that he's going jogging instead with Steve. Ty rushes away. Alina looks disappointed and Fizz looks confused.
Apparently Evelyn has challenged Tyrone to a standing on your head contest.
Yeah.
And Fizz is saying, Tyrone, you don't want to do that. Not because she has concern about Evelyn's age and ability to do a headstand, but because she's concerned about Tyrone's ability to do a headstand.
Yeah. Later at home, Fizz brings up Alina doing yoga too and how it was her mat. And Tyrone acts very defensively, then rushes away to go for a run when Fizz says anyone would think that you fancied Alina the way that you're behaving.
Mm-hmm. But she says it in like a jokey manner. She's not like mad or accusing.
No, because she's looking at Tyrone. When he gets back, the badgering continues and Tyrone continues to be unimpressed, even when Fizz says that she hasn't got a problem with it if he does fancy Alina. But rather than answer, Tyrone goes back to work. Mm-hmm. And when he comes back, because all he seems to do on Monday is go out and come back in again, Fizz has run him a bath as an apology. She then pretty much undoes all that by continuing to rib Tyrone about Alina by saying that he's much too old for her and she's way out of his league. They go have your bath and try not to imagine Alina in it with you. Tyrone is not amused.
No.
But goes off for his bath. On Wednesday, at home, Alina is sobbing uncontrollably, but not in a Nick kind of way, a proper kind of way. It seems her childhood dog back in Romania has chased its last squirrel and is no more.
Do they have squirrels in Romania?
It's a dead dog. Her dog is dead. She's very upset and has taken a day off work. Seb, who apparently knew about this dog but has erased it from his memory once he and Alina split up, could not give a solitary fuck.
He really
And
can't.
continues to get ready for work. She gets far more sympathy with Tyrone when she bumps into him on the street later. She shows him a picture and he very much likes the look of Alina's puppy. He asks her...
Well, as we know, he has a soft spot for dogs named after mythological characters.
He asks her if he can do anything to cheer her up, and she asks him to buy her a coffee. He agrees, making this the third time that they've inappropriately bought coffee together. In Roy's roles, they end up exchanging shaggy dog stories when Sarah comes in, pissed that Alina took the day off because of a fucking dog dying. Tyrone stands up for Alina, and Sarah finally relents when she remembers a pet rabbit that she thinks was called Benny, that Tyrone has to correct as Barney.
Tyrone knows the name of your brother's rabbit and points out that, both David the dog and Barney the rabbit were David's pets, not Sarah's.
Realising that she's taken her bad mood out on Alina, she apologises. It happens, says Tyrone. Seb takes Alina to the pub for a drink. He orders a pint and she asks for a small wine. Seb reckons that was her dog's last words.
A small wine.
Uncharacteristically funny from Seb.
Yes.
He takes it back, blaming not having ever had a pet and just generally being a shitty person.
Right, because she's like, that's not funny, my dog's dead.
Later.
You think it's funny because you are unwholesome.
Who?
You.
Think what's funny?
You thought the whole small wine thing was funny.
I think Seb thought it was funny.
Oh, I thought you thought it was funny because you said being
funny.
Seb uncharacteristically funny.
Yeah, well, he never really tries to be funny or is funny ever.
Yeah, I guess.
He's just a moan with those shoulders.
Well, sometimes he has good banter with his mum. And can be funny with her.
Yeah. Later, Seb,
That's
Alina,
more Abby though.
Todd and Emma are playing Snog, Marry, Avoid. Todd invites Alina to share her answers, but she plays it all coy and goes off for
the
a
milder version of Fuck, Marry, Kill.
Yeah. And Seb...
Snog, Marry, Avoid.
It was a...
Avoid.
Was it a TV show? I think it might have been a TV show.
Avoid standing in for kill.
Let's hope so. And Seb seems to misinterpret this as having another go at her.
No.
Well, he doesn't, but he thinks that he's in again.
Right, yeah. Only a week and a half after he was checking out Nina's ass. Remember that? Remember he was checking out Nina's ass?
Oh, he was as well?
Yeah. And he's like, well, she's a lesbian now, so never mind.
Mm-hmm. But maybe...
Or bisexual. Who knows?
We're not quite sure.
We don't like labels.
We're doing this. Every time I say we're doing this, I kind of hope that we're not doing this, but we're doing this.
So now we're going to have a love triangle with Alina, Seb,
no,
and Tyrone.
No.
Alina, Seb, and Tyrone.
Let's try and get a portmanteau out of that.
Alina likes Tyrone, and Seb thinks she's talking about him.
Yeah. I'm quite looking forward to him getting knocked down a peg or two again. That'll be quite amusing. But the whole Tyrone and Alina thing.
And Emma thinks Brian would be the one to marry, as opposed to avoid.
Poor Brian.
Brian, who's been in a long-term relationship with Kathy with no indication that he wants to marry her. Emma thinks that's...
He's still playing the field.
Emma thinks that's him being steady and reliable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Poor Kathy.
Is Fizz going to regret this kind of...
Teasing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because, I mean, she does go a bit far by saying that Tyrone is way out of Alina's league.
It's true, though.
It's true. But she's like, oh, this is funny and I'm not at all threatened because you're too hideous for Alina.
Yeah.
That's not something you really want to say to your partner, is it?
That is actually what came up in the closed captions for that scene. You're too hideous. They go have a fucking wash because you stink. Yeah.
Ay, ay, ay.
It'd be easy to misinterpret what Fizz said.
Right.
there.
He could take it as a challenge now. Well, you said I couldn't get her, so I went and I got her. Haha.
I'm trying to think of Tyrone's.
And Sis is typically really like jealous and grabby and, you know, she doesn't like other ladies looking at Tyrone.
Tyrone, I think, historically kind of plays kind of fairly with affairs of the heart. Or at least I can't think of any. I'm sure there have been instances where he's done the dirty on someone, but he's usually the one that's dirtied. Or did he dirty Maria? I think he might have dirtied Maria.
I thought it was Maria who dirtied him.
Or am I just getting this wrong deliberately so we can talk about it next week in Hindsight Corner? Or am I just saying that to cover up the fact that I don't know? We'll never know.
It's a paradox.
Moving on. Our next story is Tim's mum about the house.
Y'all don't want to know how long it took to write that. Many consultations were had.
We had a focus group of some neighbours and people in the
We
industry.
had to fly Jay-Z in. It was a whole thing.
I listened to the theme of Man About the House
Right.
and tried to build something that kind of sounded enough
Adjacent.
like it, but not enough like it.
Right.
So it's
Kind of
I
like
think it's
our-
kind of the same notes in a different order. It's kind of like
Last year tonight.
Listen, I think we found what I do when I'm creating
This is
music.
Gab's creative process right here.
It's
To make it close enough,
but not too close.
but not actionable.
Pretty much. So we said last week that this should have its own theme tune.
And now it does.
Now it does. On Monday. She's not kidding. That did take me fucking hours. On Monday, at speed dial, Yasmeen is explaining to Alia and Ryan her reasons for asking Tim's mum to stay. Tim's mum is the only person who really understands what Yasmeen went through, and the two of them can really help each other. Alia has a minor concern about Tinkerbell, but Tim's mum has apparently promised to find her a forever home, so you don't have to worry about that. Tim's mum has moved in and brought Tinkerbell with her after all. Rehousing the yappy wee shite was more tricky than Tim's mum thought. Maybe Alina's in the market for a new dog. Alia seems overly pissed off by this and isn't soothed when Tim's mum produces a chocolate and orange truffle cake as a moving in gift.
Yeah, Alia's favorite. And Alia defends herself saying, no, she likes animals. She likes chickens and some other things. She just doesn't like dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Who doesn't like dogs? I'll tell you who doesn't like dogs.
Who?
The guy who supposedly got bit by Biden's dog Chief at the White House earlier this week. And so poor Chief and Major had to go back to Delaware while
worried.
Mrs. Biden are...
I'm concerned that going back to Delaware in inverted commas is a euphemism for something a little bit more final.
No, it's just, well, Mrs. Biden, or Dr. Biden, as I prefer to think of her, because that's what she is, Dr. Biden.
You're arguing with yourself at the moment.
I know. It's early. Was away, and that's one of the reasons why they were kind of left to their own devices, because apparently she's the one who's really the dog parent in the Biden household. Are you surprised? Well, Joe has had a lot of work to do in the past few weeks, cleaning up after
Later,
somebody else's mess who doesn't
Yasmeen
like
has
dogs.
invited the Undertaker round to apologise for her behaviour last week. She's ready to move forward now and sell the community centre to him. Make me an offer. But sadly, the Undertaker in under a week has found another place.
Wah, wah.
It's the old council place that Daniel and Sinead and then Brian and Kathy were looking to buy, and so has therefore been available for
All this time?
2 years.
Wait, was it Claudia in on this too, that she wanted that place and was going to put
I
a
think
new...
that's the same place. Oh, pig's tits, says Yasmeen.
And that's unfortunate, because that's not quite close as
Right.
Yeah.
That's close. That is pretty
It's
close.
close, but it's not as close.
Over some vino, Yasmeen is explaining her day with the undertaker. Then Tim's mum says that she's been able to rehome Tinkerbell, so Alia will be having one less thing to bitch about. And then she's got Yasmeen a gift. It's a framed poem, Dare to Self-Care by Ms. Moam. Speak kindly to your inner self. Don't take your demon's view. You are you, and no one else will lead the life you do. Kill your inner critic and silence all his chatter. Then write this truth inside your brain. If you need me, I'll be on the shitter.
That's not how it goes.
I'm worth it and I matter.
Is there really a Ms. Moam
Quite famous
for writing shite?
for writing rhyming shite.
She might as well have just, brought her a Live, Laugh, Love poster.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Do you know,
It's fine.
we're going to sound very elitist and snobby here.
Because we are when it comes to poetry.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Especially me, because I know you British people still like your poems to be all rhymey, whereas we Americans have evolved from there. But
I don't know if it's a purely British thing about rhyming poetry. I think people who don't like poetry like rhyming poetry.
or don't understand poetry think that all poetry is supposed to rhyme.
Mm-hmm.
But we digress.
Yeah. There was a guy who used to... Actually, away with you, demon. When I was at Alwa Writers, which was now probably 20 years ago, there was a guy there who he said they weren't poems. He wrote verse. That's what he said.
Verse.
That's rhyming poetry. And for 5 years I tried to get him to write something that didn't rhyme, and he just refused. He couldn't. He just couldn't.
Just couldn't do it.
Even when you show him good examples of poetry that doesn't rhyme, write something like that.
He just couldn't.
Use the same notes that are kind of close, but not
Because
too close to them.
arguably, it's harder to write blank verse than rhymey verse.
Rhymey.
In fairness, we have hanging in our bathroom this vintage Dutch postcard that has Live, Laugh, Love written on it, but it's written in Pennsylvania Dutch.
Right, so that's where we become pretentious.
And
right there
right,
is where
yeah.
that happens.
So it's hilarious. So it doesn't count. It's not like big cursive painted letters. It's meant to be funny.
Anyway, that is the end of the first episode of Tim's Mum About the House.
You know, there is a campaign to have the two of them become romantically involved.
I can live with that.
And that would be nice because, it would be Yasmeen living her truth.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Our next storyline today is Beggars Can't Be Choosers. On Monday, Abby has some great news for Kev.
Oh.
It turns out this dive place she used to go to see bands at, Beggars Paradise, hence Beggars Can't Be Choosers, has a new owner, and they're now doing functions like weddings. She's booked him in for an 11 o'clock appointment to check it out, and Kev is giddy with delight.
Only not really. He has shaved though. All of a sudden his beard's gone.
Fell off with a frostbite, I think. But after viewing, they're looking for 1,800 quid, and they've gone all upmarket, which puts Abby off, even though Kev was kind of up for it.
And, they still have some graffiti on the walls, only now it's been
in a gold
framed.
frame, yeah. According to Debbie, the owner goes to work in a penny farthing, or on a penny farthing.
Right, yeah, so, yeah, this is yet again the show trying to mock millennials and
Like that guy that was going
like
to...
the guy with the hair.
That was going to... he was going to sue Shona or something.
Right.
She mentions them the Chariot Square Hotel, that thanks to Ray Weinstein, the mere mention of which triggers half the female population of Manchester. It would be her wedding present, freeing up cash for their honeymoon. Abby tells her to get to fuck. Kev and his wallet look like they're giving it some thought.
Yeah, this sort of thing does happen all the time though, because some of the dark, gross places that I used to go to dance and stuff in my teens and early 20s, have now been gentrified.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
Happens all the time. It sucks.
Sometimes it moves in the other direction. And that, we don't look as fondly on those movements.
No.
Later, Kev tries to sweet talk Abby round. With that extra money, they could go to Mexico, the Bahamas, Australia. That last one on the list is a bit of an instant regret.
Yeah.
Why should we accept and forgive? Debbie asks Abby, just because you're a man and you hate conflict. Yep, says Kev.
At least he knows who he is.
Abby and Kev go to see Debbie and they have other places to see, but they'll consider her offer. Kev goes off for a shite and Abby makes it quite clear that she's only doing this for Kev, and she'll turn her back once on Debbie, and that's to take her vows. Other than that, she'll be keeping her eye on her. On Friday, Abby's found a couple more options for the wedding venue. One of them has a helipad. That'll prove useful. Kev still thinks that Debbie's offer...
So that Abby and Kev can fly their helicopter there.
This is
their helicopter that they have stored in the back of the...
The extent of Kev's imagination is maybe we'll find a place that has a W on it for Webster. Kev still thinks that Debbie's offer is best because it's a freebie. If that's so important, says Abby, let's just stay at home and open a bag of crisps and save everyone some money. She sticks to her guns and starts sending Debbie photographs of better wedding venues and promises to keep doing so until Kev tells her that it's a no to the hotel.
Right.
So Debbie goes round to see Kev later. Kev's called her round, and in a very roundabout way he explains to her that he won't be taking up their offer.
Right, because they've decided on that warehouse place that
has windows.
Mostly windows.
Right.
More windows than walls. And then Abby says, why do we even need walls? And Kev points out, because we don't want to see Rita in her bathrobe.
She pishes herself laughing. She already knew because Abby had been sending her pictures, but she did enjoy his performance. He seems to try to sweeten her up by, after this crushing disappointment, by insisting that it's not personal.
Which doesn't seem all that crushing.
No. And Abby wants Debbie involved in the wedding, which I
she
don't think Abby does at all.
No. And then we get one brief scene where Kev is talking to Chesney about this. And Chesney reveals that when he and Gemma finally tie the knot, because let's remember how long Chesney and Gemma have been engaged.
Yeah.
Shall we?
I think Fizz and Tyrone might be engaged as well. I think. Anyway.
That Gemma wants to get married in a karaoke bar while doing karaoke. Like she wants to sing her vows. Karaoke style. She wants it all done in karaoke. I want to see that.
Kind of curious, yeah.
I want to see that. Can we please just have the Chesney and Gemma wedding now, please? I don't care about these other weddings that they keep throwing at us. I just want the Chesney and Gemma wedding.
See, you say that now, though, that you really want the karaoke wedding, but when they give you the karaoke wedding, you'll be like, well, that wasn't what I imagined.
We'll be disappointed,
that
right?
That was not what I imagined.
But it's fine. I can't imagine Abby and Kev's wedding. Can you?
Not as easy as I could imagine Daisy the Cow, no. Because, boom, that's there again.
Or the karaoke wedding. That immediately springs to mind, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Stuff You Should Know did a karaoke this week, didn't they? For like short stuff.
Oh, I haven't listened to any Stuff You Should Know. I've been busy trying to create sitcom theme tunes. Yeah, so, you know.
Karaoke, little orchestra. Or empty orchestra.
Empty orchestra, yeah. That's what the kara bit is.
Yeah.
Because karate is empty hand.
Yes.
And kamikaze is divine wind. That's the extent of my Japanese, I think.
Well, konnichiwa.
Oh, konnichiwa. And domo arigato.
Yes. Mr. Roboto. Well, that's not Japanese.
This isn't Japanese at all, but my mind is just now gone to the Bruce Lee movie that I watched. Was it last week, the week before?
You watched a Bruce Lee movie without me?
I watched Enter the Dragon.
What? Without me?
It's dreadful. It's so bad. It's like a parody of itself now.
Right, but
the
at the
acting
time...
is awful. The plot is just unfathomable. And actually, the action scenes aren't all that great.
They were at the time, though.
Yeah, this was the 1970s.
Right.
Anyway, moving on. Have we said anything about that storyline? Yeah, this is just Abby
We've
just reinforcing the fact that she hasn't forgiven Debbie.
Right. And us
pretty much
reinforcing
that's
the
it.
fact that there's other engaged couples that we care about more than this.
Okay. Next storyline is run, 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 run away. On Friday, there's a scene at the bar at the builder's yard that provides some exposition for us. These are the notable points. 1. Aggie is away treating another family member with long COVID. 2. Ed doesn't know what he wants to be
Finally.
called by the new grandchild.
Finally, somebody in the show, only not even in the show, has COVID.
3. Ronnie has a new job in town, intends to attend Weddy County games to see James play. 4. James has training tonight. 5. Ronnie will tell everyone about his new job in the pub later, and seems weird when Ed tells him to text Aggie to let her know about it. Ed meets Ronnie in the pub, and Ronnie immediately complains that he's left his phone in his new digs, and they wanted to take a photograph of them both. Ed is surprised when Ronnie gets up and says he's going to go get his phone, but then he walks behind the bar. He's staying at the Rovers.
And Jenny seems so pleased with this.
Jenny says that he even asked for a discount if he'd help change the barrels, like Jenny hasn't coped well enough without a man around. No offence, Ryan.
Or is it Sean still working there temporarily?
I can't
Part-time?
remember. Then she chooses to mention how excited Ronnie seems to be about Michael's baby. That was kind of dropped and then left, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Later, Ed's pissed as a fart when he gets home, and James has already spoken to Aggie on the phone and told her that he was out with Ronnie, so therefore she's expecting him to be drunk. She really hates Ronnie, doesn't she? Ed agrees, but doesn't know why. But now he's going to be staying. Maybe with James's help, they'll win Aggie round to him.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why. Just hanging in the air. Anyway.
Right. Well, it seems very taken by the idea of Michael's baby.
Right, and seems to take an interest in the fact that Ed's discussion about what he and Aggie are going to be called by this baby. Never understood that. The
Pops, Gramps,
yeah,
Grandad.
just let it happen organically. What? Why do we have to?
I want to be known as Excelsior.
We'll have to remember that once these children start procreating, sometime in the far, far, far distant future.
I shall be long dead. Our final storyline this morning. There's an awful lot here, and I think that we're... Nope, I thought we were tearing through it. We're not.
We're kind of tearing through it. Because we hate it all.
This is Team Simon and Asha's delightful storyline until they ruin it. Merged together. On Monday, Leanne gets up to find...
They just can't let these kids be kids and have a good time.
I knew that this was going to happen when you said during Corrie News or something months ago that there was going to be storylines for the teens and everyone was going to get involved and it was all going to come together. And I knew that this was going to be the moment, or there was going to be a moment in the future when various storylines were going to come together.
Right.
And that's happened this week.
Yeah. Well, it's begun this week. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better.
So Leanne gets up to find Simon is working on a college assignment about the formal and informal agents of social control. It's all going reasonably well until Jacob knocks up Simon and tells him that it's time to rock and roll.
Like that.
And despite Leanne's protests, Simon grabs his stuff and leaves. Later we hear Jacob having bother on the phone with some punk called Dion and threatening him with Harvey. Simon overhears and checks everything's okay. Jacob, I've got your back, he says. Excellent, says Jacob, because you can do me a favour. Simon gets home and Leanne is chirpily talking about making dinner, and then Jacob comes in with his bags. Thanks, Mrs. B, I owe you one, he says, and he goes off to Simon's room. It seems Jacob's place got raided and he has nowhere else to stay. Leanne is obviously incensed by this, but Simon begs her, you have no idea what he's capable of, he says.
Which is nothing.
It's best if you just let it go for a couple of days. So Leanne relents. And in a quieter moment, Simon apologises for letting Leanne down, she apologises for letting him down, and they promise to help each other fix the situation. And then a crowd of Jacob's mates and some pizza descend on the flat, and Leanne retreats again to her room. You're a top bird, says Jacob. I like how they're handling that all his mates and this gang, that you don't see any of them. Because you can't have them all in the flat, I guess.
No.
And you can't have more than a few people in that scene. So the gang has to be this kind of ethereal
They're all
ghost spirit.
invisible.
Right. On Wednesday, ITV Corey's back, and it looks like he's lost a fight with a set of hair clippers.
And aged 10 years.
Oh my God. I thought, why is Ewan McGregor from Trainspotting here?
Who is this guy that Nina's talking to? Oh my God.
That's ITV Corey. What's
What
happened to you?
him?
Jeez. Oh,
Oofed.
that's been a tough couple of weeks,
Yikes.
ITV Corey. Jeez. He sees Asha in Roy's rolls and creeps on her a bit. She reveals that it's too late. She's already seen someone else. He's incredulous at this, and then is doubly so when he finds out that her new boyfriend isn't a boyfriend.
Right.
It's Nina. Oh, it all makes sense suddenly. ITV Corey goes on to say some pretty nasty things about Nina, about being undead and sleeping on a coffin and stuff.
Right, yeah, really original stuff.
But when he leaves, Asha feels like she's finally rid of him. She knows what she wants, and that prick isn't going to get in the way of it. Then on Friday, Jacob's counting out pills from separate piles that Simon thinks are already weighed.
Right.
Harvey will kill him, says Simon, if he finds out. So Jacob throws Simon a bung to keep his mouth shut. And buy a mop and bucket. This place is a tip. Jacob leaves as he says this, and then Leanne comes out of hiding. Jacob's right, she says. This place is a tip. Asha's in Roy's rolls in a world of her own while Roy explains about a train enthusiasts meeting that he's holding this evening and how they're low on rice now that they're offering specials on chili con carne and chili sin carne.
Timbot 4000 says who eats chili con carne without rice?
Everyone in America.
Chili sin carne? It's a vegetarian chili?
Yes.
Right.
Because sin means without.
That's kind of what I understood, yes. When Nina comes in, Asha is desperate to make plans for her for the evening and seems blind and deaf to Nina's reluctance to do so.
Right, and the fact that she has to work tonight.
Right. Then Kelly the Chin is in the community garden writing Kelly the Chin on something.
With a Sharpie.
Jacob comes along and invites her to Shannon's, a new hotel that's opening up in town that's looking for likes, and so everything's cheap just to get the youngsters and the young team involved.
Right.
Plus, he's got a little something that'll help put a smile on her face. She reveals that a new kid at her foster home is making her life a misery, and he keeps trying but is interrupted when a car toots its horn. It's his ride, so he dashes off. And meanwhile, Summer and Asha come along and try to make arrangements for this evening. Asha's busy with Nina, but seems interested in Kelly's story about this Shannon's place, this hotel in town. So Asha goes to ask Dev for money, 50 quid so she can get a hotel room. Dev is understandably less than thrilled about this, unsure it's wise for her and Nina to rush into sleeping together. You know, if it was a boy, it'd be, yeah, but it's not a boy. Fine, says Asha, and she says that she'll go ask Addy for the money, which seems to be addressing the secondary issue here.
Right. And also says, it's just, Addie is funny even when he's not there.
Right.
Because she says she'll ask Addie for the money even though he'll charge interest.
Right.
And that's so funny. It's just this throwaway line.
It's also
and
true.
It's hilarious and true.
What I really liked about this scene was that Dev, despite him bending over backwards in previous weeks to try and accommodate and get his head round about this relationship and to be seen to be cool and down with it.
Yeah.
I think the risk was that he'd let Asha away with anything in an attempt to still remain the kind of cool dad.
Right,
He's fine with it. But he put his foot down on this and says, you're rushing into it.
Yeah.
And this isn't a great idea. So I can't sponsor this.
Yeah. And he's not wrong.
But then where he kind of let that down a bit was by letting it happen or not saying you can't do this.
Right. He still gives her money.
Later he gives her money. Nina and Roy are discussing the abomination that is half chips, half rice. When Dev comes in wanting to know what the bloody hell Nina is playing at, Asha is only 16 and too young to be doing any sleazy hotel action. This is the first that I've heard of it, mate, says Nina. I suggest you speak with Asha. Terribly sorry for the misunderstanding, says Dev, and he leaves.
Right, and it's a testament to Nina that Dev immediately believes her. Immediately recognizes that she's just as shocked as he is. Realizes the error of his ways, apologizes, and leaves.
Yeah, but it's the first of a couple of instances where Dev's instantly jumping to the conclusion that Nina's involved in this.
Right.
And Nina is to blame for this.
Right.
And every time he has this conversation with her, she's just in Roy's roles doing her job.
Right.
You're interrupting me doing my job by accusing me of doing something else that I didn't do. So Dev's a bit of a prick here and needs to wind his neck in a little bit.
But he does recognise that he's a prick.
Which is true.
Yes.
Later, Asha rushes in excited with the surprise that she has for Nina. But Nina already knows about it. Dev's already blurbed. And anyway, she's not into having this kind of surprise sprung on her.
Yeah.
Asha's nose is put out of joint and she leaves.
Yeah. This shouldn't be a surprise. This should be something that we sit down and we agree upon.
Right.
Which is absolutely true. I love, Nina, when Asha runs in and says, oh, well, we've got to talk about what you'll need to bring with you. And Nina is very, very
Pizza
forthright.
and a movie.
Pizza, a movie, pizza cutter.
Yep.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And then she does this whole cutting motion, like Sam the Eagle and the Muppets just going,
You know that any Muppets reference is pretty much lost on me, right? That one was for the listeners.
Yeah. You know the Muppets. You know who Sam the Eagle is,
I
yes?
have no idea who you're talking about.
Sam the Eagle. He's an eagle. And he's very much America.
Sam the Eagle.
Yes. Sam the Eagle.
So you said Sam Eagle, and I'm like, who the fuck's Sam Eagle?
I don't know who Sam Eagle is. I know who Sam
There should be a
the
Sam Eagle. He would have a theme tune that would go like this. No. So
He would finagle things.
So Nina is concerned about the age difference, and Roy advises that honesty is the best policy. And when Nina asks if he means finish with her, he thinks it's interesting that this is the direction that Nina's mind went when he suggested honesty.
I think,
which is another great bit of advice from Roy.
Roy's so good.
So Nina goes to have the talk with Asha. Nina very gently explains that being together in a relationship just highlights how different the two of them are. Asha admits to feeling that too, but thought it could still work if they spent more time together. Yeah, or less, says Nina. And then in a really weird interlude, Dev pops in and leaves 50 quid for Asha's hotel idea and then promptly leaves.
Right.
Nina pretends that didn't happen. Asha is really important to her.
For the first time ever, Nina is actually embarrassed by Dev.
And she wants to stay really close mates. Yeah, me too, says Asha. And they both look really sad as Nina leaves. So yeah, this is where Asha gets her money from. Mm-hmm. So Asha meets up now with Summer and Kelly at the bus stop, keen to hang out with them now that she's dumped Nina. Asha wants to get lashed, but Kelly says the new kid at her foster home is hard enough to deal with without a hangover, so no thanks. This is the second time that Kelly the Chin has mentioned the new kid at her foster home, and no one's biting. No one's biting with more information.
No.
So something's going to happen with Kelly the Chin and this new kid at the foster home, or
nothing is going to happen with this new kid at the foster home.
Or I think more likely is going to force Kelly out of that foster home and into somewhere more permanent on the street.
She's going to move in with Billy and Summer, isn't she?
Probably.
Yeah. Which makes sense.
Or... Oh no, she's far too old for that.
What?
I was going to say that Imran and Toya could
foster her. Well, they could, technically. They don't have an age limit, do they?
I don't know, but I get the idea that Imran and Toya are more into babies. Oh, that sounds awful. We need to take a little minute here. Bear with us. Well, that's not what I meant.
I know.
Oh. Anyway.
Okay, all right.
So Kelly doesn't want to have a hangover, so no thanks. Asha's got cash, so she sends Kelly off to find Jacob to get something for them all to get out of their tits.
Right. Why can't Asha, who's the one who wants... And wait a second.
Because Kelly the Chin knows where to score some drugs.
And wait a second. Kelly doesn't want to deal with her other foster with a hangover, but she's okay dealing with him all doped up with a dope headache.
So Kelly goes to find Simon instead. She doesn't trust Jacob in any way. He's not answering these texts. She eventually blackmails Simon to sell her a couple of pills or she'll grass him up. He asks her to get Jacob to get in touch with him if she hears from him, but she hasn't seen hide nor hair of him since he jumped in that tinty car earlier. What tinty car? Asks Simon. So the girls decamp to Summer's, where Kelly wonders how they're going to divvy up 2 pills between 3 people, but Summer bows out. She's not interested. Asha calls her a square, and Summer reckons that Asha is more upset about Nina than she's letting on. Then Asha and Summer leave to get some booze from Dev's.
Right, yeah. Summer looks down her nose at illegal pills, but it's okay with drinking.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think, yeah. Yeah, I think that's typical. Yeah. Well, I had a different childhood, what can I say? Right, so then they go to Dev's, and Asha tells Kelly to wait until they get back before she drops her pill. But when they get back, Kelly's out for the count on the couch. I reckon she's taking both of them.
Right, yeah, because as they walk out, she's holding the bag up and is staring at both of these pills with a look on her face.
Summer tells Asha to call an ambulance, but Asha's worried that they'll have to tell them about the ecstasy and how it was Asha's idea to get it. But Summer reminds her that this isn't really about you at the minute.
Right, yeah.
So,
like, so much of this just damages Asha in my eyes. So much.
She's immediately gone back to being immature, irresponsible.
Really immature.
Kind of nasty a little bit.
Yeah.
She was the one that's dumped Nina. She's going to quit her job and she'll be well shot and all that. So it was moving too fast. Nina was too heavy with her. And
kind of using Kelly to get drugs and then not wanting to have any sort of accountability,
right,
and throwing Kelly, who can't speak for herself at the moment, under the bus.
Yeah, absolutely.
Repeatedly with the hospital and with her father. Oh, Asha.
At the community garden, Simon's phone goes and it's Jacob, but it's not Jacob.
Dum dum dum.
It's Jacob from 20 years in the future. And he's not on the phone, he's there. Future Jacob took the past version of himself for a ride and then dumped himself at the hospital. Future Jacob tells Simon that he's got
some splaining to do.
That he's got one chance to open up and tell him everything that the past version of himself has been up to, so that the future self knew nothing about. Simon insists that he hasn't been ripping off anyone, and Future Jacob believes him, but then tells him that he needs to step up. He's got a promotion, and since he's a man down, now that past Jacob is in the hospital.
I am Timbot 4000 and I haven't a fucking clue what's going on right now.
This was a Bruce Willis movie, wasn't it?
I think so. 12 Jacobs? This isn't Future Jacob.
No, it's Harvey.
It's Harvey.
Finally, we have the big bad in the drug story.
Yep.
Finally. He's massive.
He's a big guy.
Yeah.
Simon doesn't want a promotion.
Burly.
Too fucking bad, says Harvey. You'll be working for me until that $2,000 is paid off, and then he zooms away in his fancy car. While Simon assesses that the situation seems to have taken a little bit of a turn for the worst.
Harvey is such a goofy name for like
It's a big
drug lord.
rabbit. It's a big rabbit that isn't there. Or it's a chain of furniture stores that's probably now sadly defunct.
Or Harvey Milk. That's sad though.
Or Hoivy from Cagney and Lacey. Mary Beth Lacey's husband. Hoivy.
Husband.
Then we have a lovely scene with Nina and Roy. She explains about the breakup. Asha likes Little Mix and Nina's not sure she could deal with that in a partner. Roy has
says,
no idea what she's talking about, but reckons it's for the best and she shouldn't feel bad for being honest. You should never feel bad for being honest. At the hospital, Kelly's going to be fine, but she'll be kept in while the toxins leave her system.
And we get a lovely little, chat about Roy's past a little bit. We're reminded of the fact that he and Kathy used to be a thing.
Yeah, and he still feels bad about not breaking that off
Sooner
earlier than they did.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't for anybody. Nobody was better off by keeping it going
by prolonging
longer.
the relationship longer. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And now she's so very happy with Brian.
Sniper's dream. The health nurse tells Summer and Asha and us that Kelly's just the latest victim of these dodgy pills in a week. In comes a breathless Billy to make things worse because Summer phoned him. They explain about the ecstasy but don't say where they got it, and Billy decides that Dev needs to know about this. What a fucking grass. Back in the street, Dev accosts Chesney. He needs someone to cover the chippy because Jacob's not turned up for work. Chesney tries to explain that he needs to get home and look after these kids, but Dev explains about Kelly the Chin and then basically leaves Chesney to sort it all out. Look, Dev, says Chesney in an alternate universe, your scheduling issues are not my problem. I'm off the clock. If this is such an issue, then close the chippy.
And he's not even the manager anymore. And he doesn't even work at the chippy, does he? He just works at the kebab shop.
Right.
And he's not even the manager of the kebab shop.
Dave bursts into the hospital with his "I'm very angry about this" face on, demanding to know what's happened, how Kelly took drugs, if Asha took drugs, where the drugs came from, did Asha know about it, and weren't you meant to be in a sleazy hotel getting your hole with Nina? Asha, understandably, would rather not talk about any of this in public. Rather than discuss anything at home, Dev wants to discuss it at Roy's Rolls and accuses Nina of being involved in the drugs party. He explains what's going on and Nina asks Asha if she's okay. "Like you fucking care," says Asha, and she storms out. Nina explains to Dev that they split up, that they weren't on the same page emotionally, and she tells Dev to be kind to Asha. She could probably do with some love right now. At home, he's calmed down and is sorry about her and Nina, but drugs isn't the way to let off steam. Asha says it was all Kelly the Chin's idea. And then she leaves him and heads upstairs.
And says she'll never do drugs.
Simon gets home and unburdens himself to Leanne about the shitty situation that he's in. Either he steps up and works for Harvey to pay him back, or he's fucked. He says that he's trapped, and then he says that he's trapped them both. The only way to get out of this is to go to the police, says Leanne. "We'll tell them that you were groomed," she says, even though that's not really true.
That's kind of true.
Harvey will run a mile when he finds out that the police are onto him, she says.
Which is not true at all.
Simon and Leanne are ready to head out to the police when Chesney helpfully comes round to see if Simon can cover at the chippy. He explains about Jacob being MIA and that Dev is at the hospital with Asha because Kelly the Chin took a dodgy pill. Says Simon. Leanne says that they have a reservation somewhere, so Chesney leaves to track down Bernie, of all people, who he says is at the bingo. Of course she's at the bingo.
Of course she's at the bingo.
Where's Tall Matt in all of this?
Yeah, where is Tall Matt? We haven't seen Tall Matt in ages.
Simon reveals that they can't go to the police now because he was the one what sold Kelly the Chin the dodgy pill.
All of the other people who work at the chippy who aren't Jacob and Simon. There's got to be other people who work there, correct? Ay.
And then it's Kelly the Chin's day when he throws her under the bus too by saying that she blackmailed him into selling the drugs.
Which is true.
Yeah, but you don't throw her under the bus. You don't grass her up. If you weren't dealing drugs, this wouldn't be a problem.
Right, yeah.
Right. The fact that you're dealing drugs really is the kind of...
Right.
The main, well, he says that he's not dealing. He's just the courier.
But now Harvey wants him to be...
Dealer number one.
Dylan, yeah.
Team Simon is now 0%. Leanne still wants to call the police, but Simon wants to do a runner, and when his phone rings, he shits a brick. "Hold your horses," says Leanne. "I've got an idea." She says that she'll meet with Harvey tomorrow in Simon's stead. "What are you going to do?" asks Simon. "Tell him off?" "No," says Leanne. "I'm going to pay him off." Simon's up to his neck because he was trying to help her when she was paralysed with grief. Well, she ain't paralysed anymore. It's time for her to step up and be his mum and sort this shit out once and for all. And that is how we end this week's episodes. Do you know, that was funnier than I remember it.
Hilarious.
From start to finish. Rolling in the aisles.
All the goodwill we've built up for the Alahans for weeks and weeks and weeks.
Destroyed.
Right down the shitter. This is why Addie's not in it, because Addie is the only redeemable Alahan now.
Mm-hmm.
This show.
Are we responsible for this by praising it?
So much.
I said, I don't want to be... The show wants to be the cool kid that doesn't have the parents' approval.
The show wants to pretend it's one of the younger cool kids.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't work.
Be sniffing glue next. Remember when that was a thing?
Apparently it's still a thing.
Is it really?
Yeah, people still sniff glue when they can't get their hands on their parents' pain meds and other stuff.
Anyway.
So Leanne's going to become a drug dealer. That's what's going to happen, right?
It's kind of the track that we're moving down.
Yeah.
She's going to meet Harvey. You know how you were saying that you didn't believe that Jacob was capable of anything? Yeah. I absolutely believe that Harvey is capable of anything.
Yeah. Yeah. which was always my point, is we haven't seen this big bad who is the one who is capable of anything. Jacob was harmless. Jacob absolutely was harmless, and that's why he's out of the show now.
He tweeted that was him done.
Yeah.
cheerio.
Yep.
It's been a laugh. And I thought that meant that we had like a couple of months still of Jacob, but no. I guess that's it. We ain't never seen him again.
Hospital.
So do you think hospital or do you think dead?
I think dead. Or close to it.
Right. I kind of think that means dead.
Dead enough. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he seemed to be quite the chipper wee chappy earlier in the week. He wasn't that kind of threatening influence that he'd been previously when you weren't believing him. I don't know. I don't think Leanne getting involved in this is going to help at all. I do think she's right, though, that the only way to solve this is by going to the police. But be prepared for it becoming much, much worse before it gets better.
Yeah. And oops, Simon, maybe you do go to jail for a little while. Mm-hmm. You fucking deserve it. Mm-hmm. This is the thing. This is the thing
why
that
I don't
hate.
think he's groomed, is because he willingly went into this knowing the situation, and if he wasn't groomed by them, he was ungroomed by his family.
Right, and I mean, kind of, because Jacob's like, oh well, you need a new phone or you need a new bike, and oh well, now you owe us for the new phone and the new bike, and oh well, I've got this little side job for you if you want it and stuff. So there was some grooming there, and also a barking dog.
Yeah.
But I don't know. And poor Kelly. Whoever thought I would be sympathetic to Kelly the Chin?
I've always quite liked Kelly the Chin. I think she carries a little bit of a menace about her that I quite enjoy.
Here she was so high and mighty with Simon, saying don't do drugs and don't get involved with Jacob because he sells drugs. But the second Asha says, hey, let's do drugs.
Right.
She's ready to do drugs.
Mm-hmm. I really didn't want Summer to be involved in it, so I'm glad that she kind of stepped away from it. I thought it was ridiculous that Asha says, oh, well, she didn't call her square, but it was to that effect. That Asha's...
Her dad's a vicar. Cut her some slack there, Asha.
Right.
I'm still not used to New Summer.
No, I got a little surprised when we see her.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not Summer. Oh, you are Summer.
Yeah, you are Summer.
Mm-hmm. I think of her as another character.
Right, yeah. Me too.
Just another character who just happens to be called Summer. Who happens to be
And yet
living
I
with Billy.
100% accept new Addie. Addie 2.0. Because Addie 2.0 is just so much more Addie than Addie 1.0 was.
Yeah. Well, he's been given more to do.
He's given more to do. And, in fairness to Addie 1.0, he wasn't really given much to do.
No, I don't think he really wanted that much to do.
Yeah.
And that's why he's out of it.
Right.
Right.
I
don't know.
Anyway.
I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I think it's getting worse before it gets better, regardless of what's happening here. But this Harvey character looks like he's taking no shit from no one.
No.
Which is...
He's
going to be tricky to deal with. Does this make you change your opinion of the threat from last week?
Yeah, because now we have the big bad. The big bad was always going to be a big threat. But before the big bad got involved, there were, if Simon had gone to the police and taken Jacob down, I don't think the big bad would have gotten involved. He would have because Jacob was always going to be collateral damage here, Yeah,
I think now that was kind of obvious. I think at the time I was kind of caught up in enjoying.
And Jacob was never threatening.
But,
Simon kept saying, you don't know what he's capable of. The only evidence Simon has of that is that one kid in the trunk of a car.
Right.
Where they didn't really do much damage to him. He didn't even have jam on his face. They just shoved him into the trunk of a car.
Yeah. Oh, somebody mentioned something about what we said last week about him not carrying a knife. Saying that if he's a drug dealer, of course he's carrying a knife.
You said that.
No, somebody said that.
No. Somebody said if he's a drug dealer, of course he's carrying a knife.
Somebody said that to me this week. I can't remember who.
It seems a bit of a generalization, doesn't it?
If you're a drug dealer, you're going to be carrying a knife. I think they said that a little bit more eloquently than that.
Because, even over here, not all drug dealers carry guns.
So that was the week that was Coronation Street. It was depressing stuff. Your moment of the week?
I think we've got to give it to Roy and Nina.
Oh, no, really?
Roy saying, you've got to be honest. And Nina saying, well, how am I going to tell her then that we're breaking up? And him saying, well, the fact that you went there. Yeah, those were good scenes between Roy and Nina.
More than Steve thinking about stealing chocolates?
We're not giving it to Steve looking at a box of chocolates. That's not moment of the week.
I've got it written down here.
It's funny.
I've given it its own bullet point.
It's funny. And it was, it was well acted, I guess. It was charming. It was a break. But really, moment of the week is Roy and Nina talking about relationships.
See, I'm trying to avoid giving it to Roy and Nina all the time. And it feels like we're doing it all the time.
That's because Roy and Nina are the only lights in the show. Because Mary wasn't in it this week.
Fine. Nina and Roy's discussion about honesty is our
moment of the week.
And then a boring, and then a moment, and then a week.
I've got Ken going to pick up Practical Boat Owners magazine.
It's either that or...
It's a boring moment, and it sounds like a boring magazine.
Either that or it's Ken getting a phone call that he left his glasses at the pharmacist.
No, that was hilarious. I loved that. Because it was like he pretended to care about Simon for like 45 seconds.
It's obviously Ken, though. Ken is our
Ken,
boring of the moment of the week.
Let's go with picking up the Practical Boat Owners magazine.
Fine.
That's our
boring moment of the week.
If you've ever been so bored that a shift on the streetcar switch sounds like a turn into the fast lane, we're here to talk you down. We're the talkofthestreet@gmail.com, which is also our address on Skype for voicemail, and on PayPal if you want to chuck a couple of bucks into our virtual tip jar. We're at Corrie Podcast on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Please check out our merch store and YouTube channel, links to which you can find on our Twitter bio or on the other stuff page of thetalkofthestreet.podbean.com. And if you're so inclined, please leave a rating and a review on the iTunes or on your podcast provider of choice. Thank you ever so much for making it to the end of another episode. We will be back next week with more Talk of the Street.